How can you sell your custom coaching program, your method, or your tool? Most people only know the most common methodologies out there, and they're not even aware of all the other solutions that could work better for them. Hi, I'm Morris from CreateGrowProfit, and today I'm speaking to Butch Phelps from the Muscle Repair Shop, and he has a very good strategy to educate the market on his very unique method and then making them more likely to try his method once they get introduced to it. Butch, thank you so much for being here today. Where are you calling in from?
Thanks, Mars. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
And where are you right now?
I am in Sarasota, Florida, on the east coast of the United States.
All right, nice to have you here, Butch. So please tell me about your decision to educate the market first.
Yes. So to me, it's like I watch so many people in healthcare, they come up with a grand idea. And in most cases, they work. They do really work for people. The problem is that the person who's going to buy it doesn't know enough or trust enough in that product to actually go and purchase that product. So the idea for me is let's get the brand out so people can understand and see what I'm talking about, and then the selling part of it will become easier. And because there's trust there. We never buy from someone that we don't trust, and that's to me that's real important.
And what is it you do? What is your methodology all about?
So the critical difference in my methodology is the use of the brain. So when we talk about muscles, and in my case, we're talking about stretching and self massage and how to eliminate common aches and pains. Most of us in the healthcare world are never really trained on the brain's connection to the muscles themselves. And so what happens is that we're pulling and pulling and stretching our muscles as hard as we can, and we're pushing as deep as we can to try to make our muscles react as if for some reason we're at war with our own muscles. And the reality is your muscles are just as emotional as they are physical. So the harder you pull, the harder you press in, the more pain you cause. Now the brain starts to fight back because it wants to keep you safe. Its job is to keep you alive. When you cause pain to your body, your brain then starts to contract muscles. And so you actually have the negative effect. So for people who think they're not very flexible, they can't improve their flexibility, chances are what they're doing is they're fighting with their own brain.
They're fighting with their own brain. So people that come to you, they're mostly experiencing pain. Is that why they come?
Usually it's pain. They've got knee pain, back pain, neck pain. Many of them like to play sports, or they just want to be able to move and do things in their lives. The sad part for us as a society is that we have trained people to believe that once you pass 50, every decade after that, your body aches and gets worse every decade. The truth of the matter is I've watched people who are in their 30s and 40s who take on a much older mindset. And at 35, 40 years old, if you watched them walk and couldn't see their face, you would think they were 65 or 70 years old. So the mindset plays such a massive role with your muscles, because if you're stressed or you're worried about your health or you're worried about money, you're worried about relationships, whatever the case may be, you're tensing your muscles 100% of the time. And so if you're a constant warrior, you're a person that's got that saber-tooth tiger chasing you 24 hours a day, it's going to affect your sleep, it's going to affect your diet, it's going to affect your overall health. But most importantly, it's going to tense your muscles, which will cause joint pain and back pain and so forth. So mindset becomes a huge part of your life.
You know what? I've been told that so many times that once I hit 60, my body is gonna start hurting.
Yeah. Well, I just turned 65 at the beginning of this month. And so my friends who I've known for 20 or 25 years, same thing. When I turned 50, 55, 60, and now 65, every birthday like that, they would say to me, "Oh, you wait till tomorrow. You're going to feel a lot more pain tomorrow." And of course, I would call them up or text them and I would say, I don't feel anything. I still feel like I'm 50. And it just baffles their mind. And I've said to one of them, I'm not going to wait around in my whole life to when I start to hurt again. I want to feel good every day. So the stretching then becomes a daily thing, but just like you would think of a dog or a cat, they stretch every day, several times a day. A bird will do it. Watch a bird up on a wire early in the morning. They're stretching their wings out before they take off and fly. We have to do the same thing. And what you have to keep in mind is the tension in your muscles comes from everything you think, feel, and do. That's why it's a daily activity. But it doesn't mean you have to stretch every muscle every day. So I don't want anybody to take that myth that you have to do that. It's really about learning how to reverse the things that you did the day before or understanding how you feel. And that's where we come in and teach you how to do that.
This is the first time I heard that connection to how animals stretch during the day. You're so right. Like I can just imagine a cat or a dog stretching. It's true. It's such a common picture, but not for us. So we don't have to stretch all muscles all day long. I know that you've created a little guide with the 5 most important stretches. Is that right?
Yes, yes, and I'll send you that link so that people can get to it and read. It's only about a 10-page ebook, and because, like I said earlier, because we do so many things out in front of us, unless you're painting ceilings, everything is out in front of you, and so that means the muscles on the front side of your body will start to tighten, but the pain will show up on the back side. So if you're dealing with your neck pain or shoulder pain or back pain, 9 times out of 10 is coming from the muscles on the front side. So what this book is doing is explaining why you need to stretch that front side of your muscles and then how to do the stretches. And then on each section that I talk about each stretch, I have a video in it that you can actually look at. And it'll teach you how to do the stretch. And that'll be for free. You just go there, sign in for it. It'll ask for your name and email address, and then it'll give you the book, and you can sit there and read it. It's probably about a 20-minute read at the most.
Yeah, as I told you before we hit record, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need those 5 stretches because I spend so much time working at the computer, sitting. I mean, I do my best to use the standing desk for a couple hours per day, go for a walk, exercise, but still, it's a lot of sitting. So yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing too. I'm glad you brought up the standing desk because people say, should I have a standing desk or what? And I always say to them, have one you can adjust up and down because if you stand all day, you'll wind up tightening the hamstrings on the back side of your legs. And then what happens is when you do try to bend forward, you'll have back pain. So you want to shift it up so that your body's moving all the time.
A quick question. What do you think about doing like air squats a couple times during the day? Does that really help or is that just a gimmick?
No, it really helps. I mean, the fact that movement is the key. So, in other words, we were never designed to sit for the amount of hours that we sit every day. And it's like, so getting out and moving, you do several things. You strengthen your muscles. You actually keep, lubrication into your joints as well, because our body puts what's called a synovial fluid, which is like a WD-40 in our joints, but that only happens through movement. So when you're not moving, you're not getting injections of that fluid into your joint to keep it lubricated. And then also the movement keeps your heart healthier, your breathing healthier, it allows you to take in more oxygen. So as humans, we need to be moving all the time. And yet we're not. I mean, the average person I read the other day walks 3,000 steps a day, which is barely in your house.
Yeah, even for me, I'm usually active, but even for me, when I like a lot of work on my table, very quickly it happens that a couple of days pass and I moved 3,000 steps in that day, which is scary. Right, we talked about the problem that we all develop our own programs and methods, and they work. We know that they work. We have testimonials. We have proof that they work. But then when they try to introduce it to the public, they're still opting for what's old and familiar, even if it's less effective. What makes your method unique? Is it that combination between mindset training and stretching?
It is. It really is, and it's getting people to learn on the basic level how their body moves every day. And so, if I can start to give people the why, so in other words, if I'm sitting in front of a desk all day, chances are my outside chest muscles are going to get tight. The muscles on the front of my hips and the front of my thighs are going to get tight. And so, when I try to stand up, the pain is going to show up on the back side, my neck, my mid back, and into my lower back. If you understand that that's what's causing it on the front side, now the stretching becomes a little easier to do because what happens is you start to see that as I release the tension in those muscles, now I get relief. And as it starts to get relief, the need to do it every day becomes easier. Now, when you talk about the tension in the muscles and the stretching, most people, when they talk about stretching, they're talking about lengthening the muscles. The muscles never really lengthen. The best thing to think about is take a rubber band between your fingers. Now you know see the length of the rubber band. You twist that rubber band, and as you twist it, the rubber band gets shorter. In reality, the rubber band is still the same length it was when you started. But when you take the tension out, it goes back to its original length. That's what you're doing to your muscles when you're stretching. You're not making them longer. Your muscles are not angry with you. It doesn't have the ability to make decisions as to I'm going to work today or I'm not going to work today. It doesn't have a memory. The memory is actually a neural pathway laid down in the brain that remembers what muscles to recruit to do a particular activity. And so the brain then becomes a very important part of the muscle system.
And what is it that you do with your clients?
So when the clients come in, of course, I always listen to them as to what are they feeling, where does it hurt, when does it hurt the most, what activities are you doing, that kind of thing. And what that starts to tell me is building up where the cause of the pain is actually coming from. And it always blows some of their minds because they'll say to me, my low back hurts. You've helped me solve it, but you never touched my low back. And I said, because that wasn't the problem, you see. And then the other part of it is to get them to understand how much the brain and their thought process affects the stiffness and tightness in their muscles. So if every time I get up, my low back hurts, a few times of doing that, my brain starts to anticipate the pain. And then when I start to stand up, I'm going to contract the muscles to slowly stand up to try to eliminate the pain. Unfortunately, that causes the pain to get a little bit worse. And not understanding what's happening, people will put like heating pads on their back, or they'll buy these sticky strips that goes on their back for heat and cold, or they'll go to a back brace. And the reality is rarely is it the problem in the back. Now, over time, if you allow that to continue on, it can lead to things like bulging disc, herniated disc, or terrible joints. The spine, the compression of the low spine, is most affected by the positioning of the pelvis. If it's too far forward because the muscles of the front thighs are pulling it forward, or too far back because the muscles on the back of the thighs are pulling it backwards, that can increase the compression in the lower part of the spine. The head does the same thing on the upper spine. If it's too far forward, you'll put more compression on the upper spine. So understanding just those basic things and the importance of why I need to have better posture becomes very important.
Another thing I learned about your training or coaching in particular is that you're not just looking to treat patients at this point, you want to teach it to all the people so they can treat themselves, right?
That's exactly right. It's like I can only see so many people a day. But if I can teach people, and that's one of the reasons as I'm starting to build up my online teaching as well, is that if I can teach people how to do it, I can reach more people and help them improve their pain in their body. And that's the key to it, because you live with you every day, 24 hours a day. And if you can start to understand how your mind plays a tremendous role with your muscles, and how the stretching is just releasing the tension that you've created during the day or during the night while you're sleeping. If you're dreaming, you increase the tension there as well. Once you understand how to do that, you don't really need me from that point on, because you now have the basic knowledge to be able to come in and do that. And so the plan is to initially teach people those things, and then have continuing education for everyone, that anytime they want to come back, they can learn more and more about their body. And then learn the importance of the strength training and the stretching, and how that's going to make the aging process so much easier for people.
Yeah, pain-free, especially.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just turned 65. I have less pain today. I'm more flexible or more mobile today than I was at 40. In fact, on my 65th birthday, I was sprinting against my grandchildren who are 8 and 11 years old across the yard, and actually beat them. But yeah, so yeah, that's the important thing, to be able to do the fun things we want to do.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive that you do those sprints. How long was the sprint?
This was probably about 25 yards. I typically on a daily basis will do like 4 40-yard sprints each day, and then I'll walk for like 2 miles just to keep my heart rate up and to keep everything moving. Yeah, yeah.
Were you always into fitness and health like that?
I was a three-sport athlete in high school, and I had become a trainer after that. And as I was working a corporate job, and I worked out for a while, and then in my 30s, my life had changed. I went through a divorce and so forth, and I ballooned up to like 315 pounds and literally just tried to destroy my body is what it looked like. And I had a doctor who taught me how to eat better so that I could lose the weight, but also maintain the weight loss. So in 1997 into 98, I lost 105 pounds in 18 months. And I maintained that weight until 2020, and then I lost another 30 pounds in 2020. And I've maintained that weight ever since. So I learned a lot, and that's what got me into when I started losing the 105 pounds. I went back to working out, not understanding the stretching side, and developed severe low back pain. Even though I was working out, I looked great, but I felt terrible. And that's what led me to go down this path to learn about the muscles and then eventually learn how the brain works with the muscles.
And why is it that you have all this knowledge, but most healthcare professionals still treat lower back pain in the lower back as opposed to other parts of the body?
I was very lucky. I had five mentors. Two of them were neurosurgeons. One was a kinesiologist, and then the other two were a PT and a chiropractor. And as I started to study with these people, they would bring me pieces to the puzzle. And I was smart enough to keep my mouth shut and listen to what they had to say and then put those pieces together. And the final piece was the brain's connection with the muscles on an emotional level. And that was where it clicked. There are a lot of people who are way smarter than I am, far more educated than I am, that unfortunately has followed the books and not stepped outside the lines. And I was lucky enough to step outside the lines and let people who had done that before me do this, teach me that, and that's where that came from. And the other thing is that I literally did it to myself to see how it felt, and I did it for two reasons. Number one, I wanted to help my own body, but number two, I wanted to be able to say if I'm stretching you, this is where you should feel it. This is how bad it should feel or whatever, because I've been there, done that.
So it really sounds like you healed yourself, and that's why you're so passionate to help others heal themselves today.
Yeah, I mean, when I got into the massage school the first time when I started, I remember coming home and my wife said, "So what do you think?" And I said, I know things that I don't know how I know things, but it's there." And I would start talking to doctors. In fact, I volunteered at a senior center for about 5 years. And one day I came in and I was eating lunch and these two doctors said to me, "What are you doing in that room over there?" And I said, "Good or bad?" And they go, "Oh, it's good. We just want to know what you're doing." And I said, "Well, let me show you is better than trying to tell you." And by the time I got in to show them, there were 8 physicians in the room, and they took me under their wing, and we went from there. So it's like it was just something that found me more than me finding it.
To me, it sounds like you always followed the next step. You didn't really try to plan everything, 10 steps ahead, but you always took the next best step. Is that also what led you to launching this business successfully? Like, how did you get your first few clients?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I looked at the metaphor of doors, automatic doors, and I would always say to my friends, when you come to a door and you have to jiggle the handle, you're probably at the wrong door. And what I learned was that as I was come to a door, while it wasn't like my initial plan, the door would just like an automatic door just open up. And I thought, okay, so I must need to be here because this door just opened right up for me. And so I did. And so when I finished the massage school, and then I got a chance to study with a guy named Aaron Mattis, who's a kinesiologist who taught me about stretching and the importance of stretching. He let me study with him for 6 months. And so I did that. And so I decided, well, I want to start my own business. So I was going to get a job with a company, and twice I got turned down because they were looking for women, not men. So they did me a favor by doing that. But anyway, I thought, well, I'm just going to start my own business and see what happens. So I had a friend who was a chiropractor, and he helped me a lot. But he said to me, "I'll rent you the room, I'll feed you some of my patients, but I'm not going to market for you." And I go, "That's fine." So I started out when I was renting a room. I had no clients, I had no marketing, and I just started building from there. And as I did, I started getting clients who started referring more and more people to me. And so today, probably 95% of my clientele comes from referrals.
So a lot of referral-based marketing. By the way, really love that analogy with the automatic door. Where in your life did you choose to walk through an automatic door? Do you have some examples?
Yeah, I've got several of them. So when I initially got into this, I had quit my not quit or retired, took an early retirement from my job in corporate America. I was in corporate America for 20 years. I had no inclination for health care at all, and I took an early retirement, and it took a year off. And I said to my wife, I just want to figure out how to give back to society. I don't know what that is or what that looks like. And everything kept popping up for the massage schools, and so I went over and I talked to them. Well, they have a rolling enrollment, so you can start almost any time. And the guy said to me, well, it usually takes about 30 days for this to happen. And I'm like, all right. So this was on like a Wednesday. That following Friday, he calls me and he's like, everything was approved, man. He goes, you want to start on Monday? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that. So I walk into the school and we start going over the bones and the muscles and so forth. And in my head, it was like I'd heard that all before. And I'm like, that is so weird because I've never studied. I wanted to be an engineer when I was in high school, you know. And so that was one of them. And then when I left there and I got a chance to go over to the senior center, again, as I started to talk to the doctors, all of a sudden the lead doctor said to me, I'd like to have you start coming to the doctors' meetings and we can start discussing the muscles, let you be the muscle guy. And I'm like, really? And again, that was one of those things that you hope for. But when I got there, it was like, oh, yeah, sure, that's a great idea. Come on in, you know? And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then when I was decided to go back to college, my initial thing in 2015 was I wanted to be like an osteopath. So I'm majoring in biology, had 2 years into it. I'm going over talking to an osteopath school about getting in, and she's like, "Well, your grades are good, you know, everything is fine. Residency may be a little bit tough because you're like in your 50s, so you know that may slow you down a little bit." And I'm like, "All right." So instead of like going, "Ah, oh, darn, this is just not working out for me," I went back to my advisor, and I said to her, "This doesn't seem to be working the direction I want to go. What do you suggest?" And she said, "What about aging sciences?" And I'm like, what? And she goes, well, it used to be called gerontology, but it's studying aging from age 30 to death. And so in each of those things, by just allowing my mind to stay open and take what was coming in front of me versus trying to force something, it put me where I am today.
I really love that story, Butch, because we learn this on a like in life coaching or in life advice. The famous Bruce Lee quote as well, be water, right? And you really remind me of that. But then when it comes to marketing ourselves or launching our business, it seems that we forget and we buy into a different school of thought, which is all about perseverance, don't give up, willpower, brute force. I mean, for you, it worked out. What advice would you give to other healthcare professionals or even, coaches starting out to make it work for them with these two ideas in mind?
The biggest thing is don't be afraid. Understand that you may have a plan and you think you know where you want to go. What we don't know is who are we going to meet along the way and what circumstances are going to happen along the way. And you've got to be open enough and brave enough to say, I know that I was heading down path A, but path B is really going to help me get where I want to be and be able to shift and move and do that. So it's about courage. It's about the courage of just saying, because my friends, when I first said, yeah, I want to be an osteopath, and all my friends like, but wait, I thought you wanted to be an osteopath, and I said, what I want to do is learn how to help people get out of pain, whatever avenue that is that's my goal. So you have to have that. What is your final goal? In other words, if you're starting a business, what is your goal in mind that you want to get to? If it's coaching people, I want to coach people to be able to be more financially successful. I want to coach people to be more successful in healthcare. What's that final I want? And then when you come back and you back it up, there are different avenues to get there. Which avenue is going to be most available to you? And in my being an osteopath, that was an avenue. I could have pursued it, but what would have happened was I would have had to give up the business I had here already. My wife would have had to give up her business. We'd probably be living in Montana or Wyoming, working at a clinic out there because of my age. And it's like, is that really going to get me where I want to be? Yes, it's my plan. And when I looked at it, I said to my wife, that's not going to get me where I want to be. And that's when I just said, I'm not doing it that. So I switched.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's basically what I'm understanding is being clear and determined on the final outcome, but allowing ourselves to switch tactics and day-to-day steps to whatever is most aligned with that ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you decide you want to get married and you'd like to have a family, and you got this picture in your head of what that's going to look like. But you go out and you start going out with girls who don't want to have a family, and they don't want to get married. The likelihood of you getting there is not very high. But if you find a girl that she may not look exactly like what you thought she was going to look like, but she loves to have a family and she makes a great partner, and you go, you know what, she's going to work. Now you can fulfill that dream. It wasn't what you originally planned, but you still got to the end result.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. So now, how does your strategy fit together with the branding and selling your program?
Okay, so with the branding side of it, it again, it's about creating a public desire for what I do. And then when I go to selling my courses, I want to be able to build courses that people can use and it's going to help them. In other words, I want them to be able to say to me, this is what I'd like to see in that course. When I wrote my book, Stretch and Release, I had two of my clients who were editors of books and so forth. I had them to edit the book because they had the personal experience of working with me and doing the stuff. And then by editing the book, they were able to help me write a book that now anybody could read and seem to get along with. And most people, when they reviewed the book, that's exactly what they said. Well, the same thing goes for the courses. The courses aren't about me. The courses are about you, the person who's going to buy it. And if the course is not geared to what you need, the chances of you buying is not very high. And so what I want from the courses is to be able for somebody to say, I bought this course, it works well, you need to buy this course. This is great. That to me is better than any other thing that I can do with that. And that's really the goal of doing this. And then once I start building the courses and get the courses out and people start to buy it and they start to get into the stretch and release technique, I'm going to start a school for therapists to teach them so that now that we have a demand, I can now start teaching therapists how to do this and make money at it.
Yeah, I can really see how all your puzzle pieces are coming together the same way they came together as you developed your understanding of being pain-free. It's also coming together now in your marketing and business. And talking about knowing the goal and being open to different avenues to reaching that goal. Even someone listening right now, your most viewed video has over 200,000 views, and it's about what to do if you can't lift your arm. People have shoulder pain and they can't lift the arm. And it's the same thing here in the sense that if someone has back pain and they tried all the pads, they tried all the conventional methods, they can, as a try, use your other stretching methods, the free book that I'm going to link below, and just give it a try.
Yeah. And that's the whole idea is that, and I love the fact that some of my comments where people have said, oh my gosh, I've been suffering this for weeks or months or whatever. And I tried this and in 2, 3 days, I feel so much better. And at first, when that first started happening, I thought to myself, wow, that's just from one single video. How could that be? Because everybody kept saying, no, you need to be able to touch all these people. And when I started to see that, I was like blown away. And I'm still blown away by some of the comments today. But the thing is I want people to try it and see that it works for themselves. And then if it is, then we can build out courses and make it really worthwhile where they can change their lives. Because it changed my life, and if it'll change mine, it'll change anybody else's.
Yeah, I like that. You want people to give it a try, experience it for themselves, and then whatever follow-up questions they have or whatever they need next, they can reach out to you and work with you.
Yeah. I just I'm amazed by it. I mean, the power of technology, the power of video just blew me away.
So where do we send people?
Okay, so the best way to go is to the YouTube channel at the Muscle Repair Shop. There's about 180, 185 videos there. They're all free. Try them out, play with them. Let me know what you think. You can get my book, which is a great manual for how to change your mindset about your muscles and your aches and pains. You can get that on Amazon. It's I think like $15. I have a newsletter. We'll put a link down in for that as well. Every Tuesday it comes out. I dive into specific ailments, what actually causes the pain, what are most common treatments only work a little bit at best, and then how you can actually do it. But I also include 3 videos of the stretches needed for that particular ailment as well. And then, like I said, I've got the ebook, and I'll send you the links and stuff for that you can put in the description. And in the ebook, it's the 5 most critical stretches that a human must do to stay movable or mobile. And so, with that, we talk a little bit about the mindset, and then we get into each of the stretches. And on each of the pages of the stretches, you'll also get a video to show you how to do those stretches so you can do those at home. And that's the real key to it, is getting you to do that. And like I said, the courses will be coming later this year.
Awesome. If someone is feeling pain, reach out to Butch.
Exactly right.
Thank you so much, Butch. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Morris.